And so it is, my dear friends, that this family gathers together again. It has been so long for us since we have been together with you, a month of your time. Much has happened which we will speak of this night. It is true, our friend, the one who relays these messages, the one we call Cauldre, it is true that we have told him we would be somewhat long-winded tonight. So we ask you each to become comfortable. We ask each of you to open your hearts, for much of the information that will be relayed tonight will not come from the spoken word but will come from the energy. It will come from the energy, directly to your heart as you open the door. My friends, breathe deeply, open your heart, allow love to flow through. Now there is something different in this energy of this circle tonight than there was 1 month ago. For when we opened our discussion 1 month ago, at this time we invited in the weavers, the ones who come to meld the energy between spirit and human. These weavers would take some 5 minutes of your human time to provide the melding. This melding occurred together, with the humans who sit here and the entities who come in, creating a new and sacred energy. As we have said so many times before, you are creating with them a sacred new consciousness, a new dimension, that is not like any other of your dimensions. Your true self tonight we gather here as family. There are no weavers who come in, for something changed between the time we last visited and tonight. Something changed, for the weavers are no longer needed, my dear friends. They are not needed, for you, the light workers and the humans are becoming enabled. You are beginning to hold and sustain the energy that is needed to provide the bridge between the human consciousness and your true self. You are beginning to integrate your true self, your God self, into your body, into your consciousness. So it is not the weavers who now meld the energy, who provide this connection between your dimension that you sit in and the dimension of your true self and spirit. No, my friends, you now hold the energy. The meditation that preceded this discussion was perfect, for it was about the opening of the heart. We ask each of you now to open the doorway, to open the heart between yourself and your true self, to allow that melding to take place. You are here with family in a safe and sacred space. It is the time to voice your intent, if you feel it is appropriate, to open the doorway to allow all who you are to be present with you now. There is no forcing needed, there are no techniques needed. It is simply voicing the intent to open the door. Have no expectations, my friends, of what this feels like, for you could not possibly imagine or create it. In the humanness that you walk, simply allow it to be. Simply hold the hand of all that you are. Hold the loving hand of spirit. Open the door between the worlds, to invite all that you are into this sacred space. This is the energy of the new earth, when you walk hand in hand, when you the human accept the responsibility of all that you are. Now, as we have said, there is much to discuss on this night. As we look here at this group, we look at the individual energies, at each of you. We look at the group energy. We see a new human emerging. Perhaps you are still releasing residue of the past. Perhaps you are still learning to adjust. Do not worry about this, for it will come. You have chosen this within the essence of your being. That is why you are here. Indeed, this is sacred energy. It is sacred energy. We look at each of you with such joy. We know the difficulties of your journey. We look at you now, each shimmering, yes, each of you. We have not left out one of you in this room. We see this shimmering, you humans who accept all that you are in your heart. 1 month ago when we gathered with this group, we spoke of a date of December 13th, when there was upon your earth a measurement of the balance of what you would call light and dark. We told you that this measurement was coming, and indeed it did. And though many wondered of the results of the measurement, we did not answer when Cauldre asked us on December 14th what the results were. Typical. Typical. We asked him to be patient. And then, my friends, it became obvious. As we said, in that message to you, that you would feel the effects of this measurement all across your planet. And on the day of December 31st, starting in your Pacific Islands when the sun set and midnight came, you celebrated the new millennium. You saw all across your Earth the test results of the measurement of December 13th. As it went across Australia and China and India, and as it went across the difficult regions of the Mid-East, went across London, and finally across your Americas, you saw the effects of the measurement. What this was the peace on earth that you have been praying for, and that you have been working for all this time. At that time something in your hearts, each of you, rang, and many of you proclaimed, "We made it." Many of you knew that the doom and gloom and the worries of the days of Atlantis had now passed. But many of you wondered at that same time, why am I still here on Earth? We will talk to you about that on this night. 2 Earths. The measurement was taken for each individual soul, each human on Earth. And indeed there began a separation of what we call the 2 Earths, a separation in consciousness. That separation is continuing on this day, and, as we have said, there would be 2 Earths that reside side by side together, simultaneously, one being aware of the other, the old Earth energy not being aware of the new, and this is appropriate. But that there would be 2 Earths, 2 consciousnesses, and, for a period of time, until the final measurement in the year you project to be 2012, do not hold firm to that date, there will continue to be these 2 Earths side by side. It is much like 2 trains, very similar, on tracks that are parallel, operating at what appears to be the same speed. From the outside appearances, operating the same type of equipment, but on the inside, my friends, they are 2 different trains. One is propelled by a diesel engine, the other is propelled by an engine that has not been defined yet. It is not visible to you because you do not understand the technology that drives it. But through the trust that you are developing in yourself and in spirit, you come to know that the train that you are on, the train of the new Earth energy, is simply operating. You do not need to know of the type of fuel, or the type of engine, for you are beginning to develop the trust that tells you the engine is simply rolling down the tracks, pulling the appropriate cars. This is an analogy that we use to show you the 2 Earths existing side by side together. The ones gathered here by choice, are on the tracks of the new energy. You are learning even in these past 2 weeks of what this is like. You are feeling the effects of separation in your sleep, in your body, in your reactions to the events around you. Something shifted on this new year. It was not something that came from spirit. This was not an event that was created in the etheric level. This was a man-made event that happened, that occurred in what you saw was an Earth that celebrated in joy, an Earth that pitched in together to make it work, an Earth that perhaps was tentative, with some filled with degrees of fear. My friends, we will tell you this, from our perspective, on the day of December 31st, 1999, was recorded on our side of the veil more prayers of love and peace than we have ever heard before, including your wars, including your most difficult times. There were more prayers that were silently voiced from you and from other humans, from humans that you would not expect that would even prayed on this day. And look what happened. You made it. It is time to celebrate. Now the energy of this room, we ask you to feel it. It is different than what has been created before, for you have created it by opening your hearts, by voicing your intent and accepting who you are. Normally at this point in our discussions with you we tell that we will come in to hug you, but, dear friends, the ones who are involved in this from our side are already here. You are open. They are already hugging you. There is in what we call the second circle. Each of you sit in the first circle. There is in the second circle now a group that begins to assemble now that you have provided the proper balance of energy here, the proper melding. They come in, but we choose not to introduce them at this time. They will be introduced later. Now before we begin with discussions of this night, my friends, we pause for a moment, not to hug you, but we pause to let you to feel what you have created. We sit back and enjoy in appreciation and gratitude. Take this moment to feel the true love in silence for a moment. Silence. Blessed are the humans who came here, who have endured lifetime after lifetime, under the veil, through the spiritual amnesia, through the difficulties, but yet have persevered, who have been guided by hope, by love. Now the humans, the light workers, who gather here on this night, each of you we know, are asking on this night, where do we go from here? We feel your eagerness to move forward. Earlier our friend Caldra was going to ask for intent from the group, and we asked him to not, for we knew already what was in your hearts. Each of you is asking now, Spirit, what is it that I should do? Now that we have crossed over into the new millennium, what is it that I should do? Where is it that I should go? Blessed is the human who has endured much suffering and difficulty and challenges but yet sits in this circle now and asks, what else can I do for Spirit? The seed now, for our discussion of this night. There is much information here that we would wish to convey, and again, much of it is difficult to put into the language of words, so open yourself well to receive the new language, the new language. We ask you to meld this or combine this language of energy with the words that are spoken here for the truest understanding. And for those who read this in the days to come, we ask the same, my friends, for you also can truly open yourself to both energies. It is that you have all lived many lifetimes in many places. Most of you have lived many lifetimes on earth. It is that you have all known of your mission, or your reason for being here, for coming here to this earth. It is that most of you have experienced the days of Atlantis or have been Lemurian. There is a reason for this. There is a reason why you come back now at this time, at this most appropriate time. We will tell a simple story first to help with the understanding of what we will convey. There are times when a human will plant a seed in the ground, knowing that the seed will not sprout immediately, but it will have a blanket wrapped around it in the ground to protect it until the time it is ready to begin germinating. And the seeds that are placed in the ground have within their consciousness a knowing that not all of the seeds will germinate, but this does not matter to the seeds. It is simply the intent of the journey. There is no sorrow with the seeds that do not germinate, for they simply return back to the hole. But there are some seeds now planted that have a blanket around them, that have a hope that someday they will release that blanket when the time is right and all the elements of the earth are right. Then the blanket is released and they can germinate. Many of these seeds do, and the blankets leave them. There are rumblings within the seed, great rumblings, and it begins to awaken. And then there are discomforts within the seed as it begins to germinate, as it begins to come forth. And then something magical happens. There is a type of intervention as the seed is awakening, and it is coming out of its own shell and beginning to poke through and beginning to grow its own underground branches. There is a type of intervention that takes place. It is a melding of energy of the consciousness of the seed with the new to-be consciousness of the entire plant. It is like, if you would imagine, a shaft of energy breaking through the ground, coming down to the seed that is coming into its awakening, a shaft of energy that reminds the seed of the full potential of who it was prior to when the seed only thought it was a seed at the outer level. It is like a lightning bolt perhaps coming down and affecting the seed and saying, it is now time to come out, it is now time to come and do your true work. You thought your true work was perhaps being a seed in the ground, but that was not it. This melding and merging of energies, this divine coming together, takes place, and now miraculously the seed begins to sprout. And it takes in energies of the earth, the water, the ground, the nutrients, but it is also absorbing great amounts of energy from divine sources. And the seed breaks through the earth, and it now sprouts into a magnificent plant and then feeds others. And as the others feed from the plant does not die, it continues to sprout new leaves and new fruit. Each one who comes by and tastes of the fruit of this plant of the seed, then carries a degree of that energy and that love and that spirit with them. Therefore, ultimately, sooner or later, all are touched, all begin to carry the attributes of the seed. So, Tobias, you may ask, why are you telling us the story of the seed? We are not farmers, we are light workers. But, my friends, in order to help you understand what we will talk of now, we chose to share that story. There was a knowingness in the consciousness of all things that this last century on your earth would be a both challenging and difficult but potentially a most rewarding time. There was the understanding that your world wars, which were true tests, true battles of dark and light, could terminate the earth at that point. Then there was understanding that as you entered into your nuclear age that these had the potentials to put earth at its end, somewhat similar to the endings on Atlantis. There was the equal potential to go either way, light or dark, of the end of this time on earth or the continuation into two earths. There was this understanding that each of you have. Each of you here chose to come in at a very delicate, very critical time in the earth's history. You chose this time. You chose this, knowing that it could go either way. Each of you chose to be here in this time frame, for each of you carried in a seed within you that should the earth continue and move into a new energy, there was an important energy attribute that would be needed in the energy dynamics of the new earth. Each of you brought in a seed, knowing in advance that there was the potential for termination. There was potential for non-fulfillment of your coming to this earth, for if there had been destruction, you would have simply passed and simply recorded another human life, but without germinating. The lost children of Christ, my dear friends, we ask you to remember a time that most of you here were involved in. That time was 2,000 years ago, and most who are here walked with one known as Yeshua ben Joseph, Jesus. Most of you met Yeshua personally at that time. Most of you sat together in groups like this, talking of the need for the Christ consciousness to be brought to earth, not by one but by many. You experienced a very interesting time then. We ask you not to be ashamed or embarrassed within yourself to know that you were there at that time, that you walked with the Master of Love. It was part of your full contract, to come into contact to learn. For this one, known as Jesus, was the seed that had germinated, that sprouted the fruit that you tasted of. It was important that you tasted of that energy while you walked on earth. Now we come to this lifetime. So you chose to come in, most of you in this room, from a time period generally, and this is not limited to, but generally shortly after your last World War up until what would be your approximate mid-1970s, and those are general, my friend. There are some who came in before and some who came in after, but this was a time period when most of you chose to come in, the seed bearers, what we call. You came in, my friends, each carrying the seed within you, the seed containing the crystalline white energy of the Christ consciousness that would be needed on this earth should the earth move into two, should the earth begin the graduation process. The seed bearers are here tonight and many other places around your earth. When you came into this earth, you were delivered at the hospital or other places. Your parents looked into your eyes and saw something different that they did not see in their other children or other people's children. And, in many cases, this frightened your parents. They did not understand. It seemed odd to look at pure love and Christ consciousness eye to eye and experience that would be a wonderful, awesome event, but they were not prepared for what they saw. They were not prepared for the strength of the energy that you carried. And as you began your very early years, and you were still required to be in the hands of your parents, and they fed you and changed you, many of them felt uncomfortable, they did not understand. They did not understand your strange patterns of sleep. They did not understand the supposed ramblings that you had as if you were talking to others. They did not understand why you were not like the other children. And their energy, my friends, conveyed to you as a small child that you were different, and you were unusual and perhaps odd. And you felt this in the core of your being, you felt that you were not satisfying something within your parents. Then, for most here and for most reading this, there was something that happened in your very early childhood years, anywhere from the ages of 2 to as old as age 10. As you were bringing forth this Christ energy into your physical being which would need it, which needed to be transmitted to all parts of your biological body, as you began to bring the energy forth, and you saw the reactions from those who came to look at you in the crib, you began to feel ashamed, or that you had done something wrong. And, my friends, each of you who hears this and reads this, each of you then took what you would call a hit to close the door. Some of you had a traumatic physical event. Some of you had a traumatic emotional event. For others, at night it was like the greatest love you had ever felt slipped out and walked away from you. That is why we call you the lost children of Christ, for as children, each of you became lost. You closed the door and nailed it shut. You felt within your being, ever since that day, the greatest of despair, the greatest of loss. The attempt to come back, to bring that back, oh, there is still remembrance within you of what that was like, an energy remembrance, perhaps not of the specific event but the feeling of the connectedness, the crystalline Christ structure within you, the shame that you felt, the need to put this away until the appropriate time. All of this, my dear friends, was by design. There was no mistake. There was no accident, for indeed it was necessary for you to hold this energy in a safe, hidden place within your being until the appropriate time. Oh, if you had allowed this Christ energy to come out in full in your teen years, in your early adult years, you would have been committed or killed or ridiculed. It was important for you to put this away. You, the lost children of Christ. You, the seed bearers. We would like to apologize to you, if that is even possible, for what you have carried, and for the burdens you have taken on, for all the healings and the counseling and facilitation that you have had to go through to try to find what happened. But, my friends, you have chosen the path, and we have honored it. The feeling of loss, the feeling of abandonment, that's where it comes from. It is time, and now for the good news. Now for the good news, my friends. The seeds are beginning to germinate. They are beginning to shed their blankets, the ones that have made it, and not all have, but the ones that sit here, the ones you call family and light workers all over the world, you are the seeds that begin to germinate. This is the time for the seed that is awakening and feeling the discomfort but yet the joy of bursting forth, that is confused but yet filled with ambition. This is the time for the divine connection to take place, for the analogy that we used of the seed, for the lightning bolt to strike. We assure you, my friends, it will not be like a painful lightning bolt. It will be a stream of love that begins to come in, that connects with the seed that was within you, the lost children of Christ. It begins to help you sprout and to break through and to become the tree, the fruit, and the way. That is why we sit here tonight to share with you, to help you to understand what you have gone through, to help you to understand that after the measurement of December 13th and the understanding of the balances and now the creation of the new earth, that the seeds are ready to come out. The seeds are important, for they will begin to shine a light, an energy for others to see. You carried this consciousness within you, all of these days. It was important, my friend, to have a human carrier of this seed, to have you. It is you. This is not an energy that could be delivered by asteroids or comets or the planets. Oh, they play a part in it, but it was energy that had to be brought in within you. That is why there was a time 2000 years ago where you walked with Yeshua ben Joseph, when you saw what it was like for a single seed to germinate, to be part of that energy, so that one day you too could be a carrier. Each of you in this room has felt from time to time that you were perhaps crazy for feeling like you were Christ, because your books had taught you that this is wrong, because they had taught there is only one. But the Master of Love himself, the one you call Sananda, the one that you walked with, stands here tonight asking each of you to accept the Christ consciousness that you carry in order to allow the melding of the germinating seed with the divine light that comes in, to carry on, to bring the energy that you carry into this new earth, to be the plant, to be the fruit of the Christ consciousness here on earth. This is needed. This is needed. For all things to move forth, there must be the ones to bring the light into the new energy. Quite simply, this is what you asked to do in this lifetime. Now that the measurement has taken place, my friends, there is such honor. There is the one that you call Sananda that stands before you tonight in honor of the journey where you have come. You think the tears flow from your eyes. They flow from Sananda. They flow from all who watch this. It is time for you, each of you, to become all that you are. Moving forward now, you may ask, what is it that you should do at this time? We are here to give you guidance on this, specific things that you should know, that you can count on. We feel we can no longer call you the lost children of Christ. You have now found yourself, you have found each other. The energy that is divine, that is your true self, that is spirit, will find you also. When we spoke with this group, with all who read this, some 5 months ago of your time, we talked of your guides departing, the guides who had always been with you and held the balance in a space of energy. We told you this would be a difficult event, and indeed your guides have left or are in the process of leaving. There is a knowingness that when they leave your energy space it is difficult for you. It is like having two pillows around your head. It is comfortable, and it feels awkward when they are removed. But indeed it was important for the guides to leave for you to take ownership and occupy that space. It was important to allow the energetic room for your true self to come in. That is what has been happening with you in these months that have passed the preparation of the space and the beginning of the divine self integrating with the human self. We told you there was a chasm to cross, that it would be difficult for you would not know how far the chasm was or how you would get to other side, but that by trusting in yourself and trusting in spirit, you would suddenly emerge on the other side of the chasm. And that is what we are seeing with this group and spiritual ones all over the world. Your runners now as you begin to truly emerge and awaken, and there is the divine integration and the uniting power of the seed of the Christ consciousness that you carry, there will come to you a new type of entities that will come to serve you. These will be different than what you have felt or known from what you have called your guides. Your guides were there to hold the balance of energy safely, the spiritual quotient around you. You are now beginning to accept all of your spiritual quotient for yourself. There is a new group that comes in. They are here tonight, the ones we mentioned earlier that are standing in the second circle. They come in here a service to each of you. You are now taking responsibility. You are the leader of your own team. You do not need other entities coming in here directing you or keeping you in balance. You are beginning to do that for yourself. But yet while still being a human, there needs to be those who pull strings on the other side of the veil on your behalf. But, friends, you are the commanders. You are the creators. Do not give your power to another, only to yourself and the God self and the Christ self that you are. The teams of new entities will vary in size and type, of which we do not choose to define now. We will cover this in future discussions. You will have anywhere from 1 to as many as 20 entities that come in. My friends, these are not the guides that you have known in the past. They are not the ones to ask for what you should do next. You need to ask yourself that. These are the ones that we will call runners. They are the entities that gladly and joyfully serve you, gladly and joyfully serve you. And when you command, when you intend and you create, they are the ones that will move energies in response to your intentions, appropriately on the other side of the veil. They are needed on a somewhat short-term basis for you are still not used to working with the other side of the veil. You will learn soon, but you are still under the veil. These runners, these loving entities, will be in service to you. When you voice intent for a world of peace and love, these runners take that energy and move it in places that need your human consciousness that do not understand. When you voice intent for a body that is in harmony working with itself, these runners move energy on the other side. They work only in response to your intent, to your committed intent. This is different than the wandering of the mind. Your committed intent is when you verbalize or when you envision intent. When it is that you are working with another in healing, you are working to facilitate them, and you are allowing the Christ consciousness that you bring in to work with them. These, the runners, are the ones who will open energy conduits with your cliento's higher self and with spirit. They are there in service to you. As they come in, you will feel a tingle of familiarity around your energy field. They will generally come in one by one over a period of time. They will not come in en masse, for this would disrupt some of the energy grids of your physical being. But they will let you know in their way that they are there, and you will feel them. They are not there to answer your questions, for you must ask within yourself. You must go back to the Christ consciousness, to the crystalline structure within you, and begin to pull that from yourself. It is not the commander of the ship that asks the entities, the sailors, how to guide the ship. It is the commander who gives intent for direction, that has the sailors then do the running, the work. And that is the relationship that is being built here. There were many times when you would ask your guides for advice or counsel. There were many times you went into neutral, waiting for an answer that you did not receive. Do not ask your runners which way you should turn. They simply respond to your committed intent. Ask within, my dear friends, for you are the one that is responsible. You are the ones who have carried the seed within you. You are the ones who are planting the Christ consciousness in the new earth energy. The new energy, we are asking you to learn to work with this powerful energy that you are bringing in. The more you work with your own Christ energy, the more you learn the power that lies within it, the more adept you will become. The runners are there in service to you, to help you carry out committed intent. You will begin to see your creation happen quicker as you begin to voice committed intent and the runners begin to serve you. We will tell you now that there are certain parameters with this that you have set up for yourself, but we will repeat to you. If you choose to use energy of the white light, the Christ consciousness, for totally selfing purposes, it will not work. It will be blocked. You have set up this energy pattern for yourself in love and honor. Oh, it will not backfire on you, my friends, but if you choose to use this for selfish or selfing purposes, it will be dormant for that intent. If you choose to use it for manipulation, it will be dormant. Again, you have set up these energy parameters long before you came here. If you choose to use it for the good of all, for the good of the ones that you work with, for the good of the situation or the environment, you will see it respond very quickly. My friends, the reason we mention this is also to help you understand that all things that you need as humans, all things that you need in terms of your health, in terms of your abundance, in terms of your energy levels, assume that they are there. Do not work from a position of lack, but assume that they are there. You will find that your own Christ self responds to that when you assume that all things that you need are there, when you have trust in yourself. That is why you set up the energy parameter of not using this new empowerment for things that you need for yourself. It was assumed that you have all things. There is no right or wrong here which we are trying to discuss. It is not that it is bad to use this energy for selfish purposes. Certainly it could be, but you have set up the energy dynamic that it would be dormant because you assumed that you would have all things that you needed. Begin walking in that space of trust and knowingness, that everything that you are is in perfection. Begin using the energy of the Christ consciousness with your committed intent and with the help of the runners who come in to work with you. It is time for each of you to begin creating. It is not time to sit back in the chair and do nothing. It is a time for each of you to begin the true work that you came in for, and we use the word work, but there will be joy in it. There will be joy as you help others. There will be joy, teachers. And each of you are teachers in guiding others. There will be competence as you begin to guide them. There will be a knowingness within you. You will see fast results, for you are now beginning to bring in the new power to help you work both sides of the veil. It is a time of creation. It is a time of new adventure for each of you, but it is a totally new empowerment also. You cannot fail in this, for the energy does not even allow for that. You can simply do nothing, but you cannot fail. Do not be afraid of using the energy. As we mentioned in our last group of sessions like this one, the energy of the new earth is different in that you can sit upon your bike each morning and the environment will change around you. That is meant to say that everything appropriate will be brought to you. You do not need to go out and search for it. All things appropriate from this moment forward will be brought to you. Then it is up to you to open up the energy of the Christ consciousness and to begin creating. What is it that you should create? You will know, my friends, when you ask yourself what it is that you should do. Look around you from this moment on, that everything is appropriate. There are no mistakes. There are no coincidences. Look at each situation and ask what brings it to you. A person comes into your life, ask their higher self, ask within your being, why is this person being brought to me, and you will have an answer. Perhaps not immediately, it may take some time, but as you learn to work with your own empowerment, it will happen faster and faster. It will amaze you how fast it will happen. Each and everything that comes your way has a purpose. You have brought it to you. It has been attracted. Begin to work with it. Begin to be creative, expressive beings. See no boundaries, for there are none in this energy of the new world. Be the healer and the teacher that you truly came to be. Allow the Christ consciousness to explode in joy around you. My dear friends, the most difficult thing of all were the years you spent as the lost child of Christ, hiding who you were, walking with that deep inner knowingness of what you had brought in, but knowing also that it had been lost and hidden, knowing the traumatic event that you went through to hide it, thinking that you had done something wrong and that God had abandoned you and Christ abandoned you. You did not do something wrong, my friends. It was all part of the architecture of the energy, to bring it out only at the appropriate time, for the seed to germinate when the rest of the world was ready. Look within. We love you dearly. We honor you deeply. There are tools that are available to each of you at this time. It is not a special gift of spirit. These are tools you've placed in your path for when you are ready to call them forth. There are many tools, all the tools that you need. It is again by committed intent that you bring these forward. For when you need a flashlight to shine in the dark, your committed intent will bring it forth. When you need a magnet, a strong magnet, to attract the appropriate things to you, your committed intent will bring it forth. When you need any tool of any kind, you can create it within yourself immediately. For you now begin to fill your own toolbox. My friends, do not look to others for the tools. Look only to yourself. Ask the question of yourself. Bring it forth yourself. With the practice of this, you will become adept. You will understand how to work with the new energy. The guides, as you know, could not answer most of the questions for you. The runners that will come in to work with you will not be able to answer questions. Simply rely on self. Allow the seed to germinate. It has been a joy being with this group on this day, to see the emergence within each of you. We have been working intensely with you in your dreams, in your consciousness even when you are awake, knowing the shift that would be taking place that you would go through, knowing that there would be a degree of disbelief about the seed that you carry. Perhaps it would even surprise you as it began to emerge in you, so that you would want to push it deeper into the earth. We have been working with you intensely, but now it is truly the time. It is a gentle but strong time, a gentleness, an energy of love that comes in. There is a strength that you are not used to. Look within, my dear friends, for that is where the energy lies within. We will continue these discussions in the days and weeks and months to follow. We will track with you very closely on an individual basis if you allow to this to be. We will track with you deeply as you sleep, to help you balance and adjust to this. Expect that the lightning of the divine self will come in. It will be gentle. It will not startle you, but it will come in. Expect these things. Expect the runners. Expect now the true part of the journey that you came in for. Everything up to now has been, in a sense, a waiting and a rehearsal and a time of staying tuned up. But now the real journey begins. And so it is.